So at the time that I was in my completely rebellious mode, and I had been for a few years, where I was far away from Allah Ta'ala, where I did not believe in a lot of things that I'd been taught to believe in, and where everything felt like too much. Like Allah Ta'ala is asking too much from me. He's asking me to do too much. And I'm just a human being and I've done a lot. And and that's not even, it's not even that I've done a lot. It's just that I've so much to go through in my life. And I feel all alone and I feel unsupported in doing so. अब मैं उसके ऊपर अब ये सब कुछ भी करूं जो वो मुझसे चाह रहे हैं, मतलब बकायदा नमाज भी पढ़ूं और बकायदा मैं कुरान के, मेरा नहीं दिल करता. I don't want to do it. And I will continue to be in my dunya mode and just trying to survive the best I know how and trying to make it through the day. So this was during COVID. This was when I was not in the country with my two kids. And this was when three of my kids, all three of us, along with Alhamdulillah for one helper, we were locked in our apartment because the COVID rules were very stringent in the country that I was in. And locked in our apartment, we only were allowed 2 hours of freedom, which was an evening walk, and that too around the apartment complex. And to be shut away, the borders were closed. I had not seen my family in a year and a half. I was supposed to go back after 6 months for a visit, and it had been a year. And I was just at the edge of everything. Like I was the condo that I was living in was on the 13th floor, and I would contemplate seriously looking down on the floor, and it's like, okay, what would it take for me to not jump, because nothing was working out. And I was in KL, and I remember बहुत ज़्यादा वहाँ पे, because it's a monsoon prone area. It's a tropical country, right? तो बहुत बहुत ज़्यादा वहाँ पे thunder, lightning बहुत frequently होता था. It would rain like it's punishing you. It would rain like not in a gentle way. It would pounce. It would attack you and it would not stop. It felt like a continuous assault on your senses. So in that space, I remember one night, my daughter had an especially difficult night, and I was lying down next to her, and there was this out of nowhere, and which is how it used to be in Malaysia, this gigantic, huge, big thunder outside the window. And wo gauzy curtains that you could see through the sky in my from my bedroom. So I looked up and it was magnificent. It was magnificent. It was an entire lighting show that was lighting up the sky. And I just felt so far away from the magnificence of Allah. I was like, ये क्या तरीका है कि आपने सारा ड्रामा और सारी कूल स्टफ जो है वो आपने आसमानों पे शुरू की भी है और यहाँ पे हमें आपने छोड़ दिया जमीन के ऊपर to like somehow make it through. And it doesn't, I want to be there. I want to be where you are. I want to be where your people are. I want to be doing what they're doing. Because वहां पे आप लोग गैलेक्सीज बना रहे हो, पता नहीं कहाँ से थॉट्स आ रहे थे. It's like वहां पे आप लोग डायमेंशंस बना रहे हो, गैलेक्सीज बना रहे हो with the people that you love, with all of your favorite people, and you've abandoned us here in our beds, locked away from everybody that we love, from everything that we love, and you expect us to be okay, and you still expect us to admire you, और आपका हम लोग आपको सुभान अल्लाह कहें और आपको हम लोग elevate करें. This is unfair. I don't feel like doing any of this. I want to do what you guys are doing. I want to do what your favorite people are doing. And I know what they're doing. I know that they're like creating galaxies and like doing awesome things and playing with space time, and you're having gupshup with them and you've abandoned me. And I cried and cried and cried and cried so much that night. And from FOMO, I realized that later it was FOMO, because I felt so distant from the magnificence of the Allah that I believed in. I wanted to believe in, not had believed in. I wanted to believe in because I had not been taught to believe in his magnificence. I had been taught to fear him. I had been taught to be extremely cautious of his wrath, because किसी वक्त भी हमें कुछ भी कर सकते हैं. And I remember writing this one sentence that he's a God who would take away a kite full of skies one day, just like that, because he's decided to be as such. So I was taught about an Allah who was a temperamental Allah, जो अपनी मर्जी करते थे और जो अपना हुक्म आपके ऊपर नाजिल करते थे और जो आपको पनिशमेंट करते थे. और yes, he was a very loving Allah, but more strict than loving. Yes, he was doing everything to protect you, but there are other ways of protecting people. You don't have to punish them. You don't have to, like, stand guard over them like jailers. There are other ways of protecting people. But मुझे उस अल्लाह से नहीं सिखाया गया. मुझे ये सिखाया गया था कि ये वो अल्लाह है जो आपका जेल की हिफाजत कर रहे हैं, और अगर आप जब जेल से निकलोगे तो सब कुछ आपसे छिन जाएगा. और वो जेल मुझे लगता था, my religion. And so on that night, though, I witnessed the magnificence of him, which had nothing to do with me, which had nothing to do with my actions, which had nothing to do with my sins or my good deeds. It had nothing to do with me at all. It just was. It was just Allah being his magnificent, gorgeous, unbelievably powerful, and aesthetically beautiful self. When I saw that thunder and lightning, and I said, wait, I want to know this Allah, who is not so invested in how wrong I am, but is most invested in wanting me to understand how awesome he is. You see, look at the shift of this relationship. When we believe people are around us to make sure we don't do anything wrong, we are constantly vigilant, we are constantly afraid, and we're never feeling worthy enough or good enough, because we could make a mistake at any point. There's that relationship with Allah. But on the other relationship with Allah, here's this awesome, magnificent mentor person who's talking about beautiful things and who's being beautiful people in different moments in your life. And I want to get to know who he is, how he is so awesome, how he has these words of wisdom and like light to share and love to share. And I don't know that Allah. And somehow all of this, of course, is retrospect. Somehow in that moment, the desire that rose in my heart was, I want to know that Allah, the one who just is his beautiful, awesome self. I want to know that Allah. And in the next few days, I don't remember how it came to me. This dua came to me. And I Googled that dua. I don't remember how. I Googled that dua to look at the context of where it's coming from. And it was a dua from Quran. And it was Hazrat Suleyman ki dua. And the reason why that dua stayed with me and kind of stayed with me, it kind of gripped my heart immediately. It was like, when you're in a really flashy, I don't know, sequence, flashy store where everything is nice and flashy, but this one bag you can't help but like pick up and touch and hold right close to it. It's like, oh, I want this. So that dua kind of gripped me, drew me towards it. And why it happened, why it did so, was because there was nothing about me as such, nothing about my sins as such, nothing about all my mistakes as such. It was about how awesome and how beautiful he is, and how an Abd of Allah, which is Hazrat Sulaiman, how an Abd of Allah with the confidence and with the मान, that's the word, there's no English word, एक मान के साथ वो अपने अल्लाह से कह रहे हैं कि मुझे ये चाहिए, ईमान के साथ उनके पैगंबर. एंड आई हैड बीन एक्सपोज टू मैनी पैगंबर एंड मैनी रसूल, राइट? और बिकॉज मुझे कभी इतनी I didn't ever make the effort to go into the story. So from the superfluous stories that I'd been engaged with, there were people who had suffered a lot, and they had gone through a lot of tragedies, and a lot of things had been taken, a lot of loss. They had a lot of things had been taken away, and they had to learn their wisdom and had to live very difficult lives. So that was my understanding of the Paighambar and the Rasul of Allah. And here's this Paighambar of Allah who is like, Rabbi Firli wa habli mulkan la yambaghi li ahadin min ba'di innaka antal wahhab. This is this beautiful ayah of from Surah Sad, and this ayah is ayah 35. And this is dua of Hazrat Suleyman, which is, he says, Kala, he said, Rabbi firli wa habli mulkan la yambaghi li ahadim min ba'di innaka antal wahhab. Ya Allah, forgive me. Rabbi firli wa habli mulkan. And grant me habli mulkan, an authority, mulkan, that will never be matched by anyone after me. La yambaghi li ahadim min ba'di. And no one after me. You are indeed innaka antal wahhab, the giver of all bounties, wahhab. And I was like, how magnificent is this? This Paighambar must really know. This dude, Hazrat Sulaiman dude, must really know Allah for him to have this kind of regal authority and the humility, because he said, yeah, Allah, forgive me. He starts with forgive me. So he has the humility and the man, the knowing of his Rabb, of who he's asking from to say, Ya Allah, give me a kingdom that you have never granted to anyone before me and never will grant to anybody after me. For you are the giver of ultimate bounty. Subhanallah. And this dua was everything for me. It became my, what we call our affirmations. It became my affirmation. And as I began to recite it more and more, because initially we are new to being familiar with what kingdoms feel like. So our first instinct would be to go to the familiar kinds of kingdom, big houses and big cars and lots of money and lots of branded things and being able to travel a lot and having this sense of freedom. And that's what kingdom feels like. And it's not untrue. This is what kingdom feels like. But in this case, subhanallah, I began to realize as I began to recite it more and more, okay, what does my kingdom feel like? Because Hazrat Sulaiman did not ask it for humanity, did not give me, he personalized it, give me a kingdom. And it was give, so when I ask for something from Allah Ta'ala, what I am saying is, look at the bond that I'm establishing with me, because he's not asking for anything specific. Look at how gorgeous his dua is. He's not saying mujhe ye chahiye, mujhe ye chahiye, mujhe ye chahiye, mujhe ye chahiye. Unhone kaha mujhe ek kingdom chahiye that is specified, customized for me. Give me a kingdom that you will not give, have never given to anybody before me, and never will give to anybody after me. What does it mean? It means you customize it for me. Now, for us to be able to have the faith enough to give this kind of a generic brief to Allah Ta'ala कि मुझे आपको मुझसे क्या कि मुझे आपसे क्या चाहिए, you really need to have established trust with the person that you're giving, the entity that you're giving this brief to. And that trust means, Ya Allah, you know me. You know the depths of me, and you know all my darknesses, the darknesses that people have seen, and darknesses that they have no clue about. And Ya Allah, you know those darknesses, and you know my light. The light that mostly, yes, I struggle for it to come out in front of people. And so many times, oftentimes actually, that people would not be able to see that light, but Ya Allah, you know the light that is within me, and you know the intention of that light and enable me to bring that light up. You know that light within me. So me, deeply and intimately, and the only entity being aware of my shadow and light, give me a kingdom. And give me a kingdom of being deeply aware of shadow and light would mean what? Would mean, yes, I want, because a kingdom, I was listening to this beautiful tafsir also of this particular dua. And the reason why I sent across this invite a little sooner, it was 2 days ago, as randomly, for the first time in my life, an entire tafsir of this dua as a video from Naman Ali Khan came on. And I was like, how is it even happening? So of course, this is what I must talk about, because this is the dua that I make this dua at the end of every namaz, after every first namaz. I do it randomly also when I look at synchronicities, because my God, it's an affirmation of the kingdom that I've been giving. And so in that, this tafsir, beautiful thing is like when we do habli mulkan, the word that's been used with this ayah, mulkan is a physical kingdom. Yes, it is about dunya. And I loved what he talked about how, when did we get the idea that the kingdom of Allah is only in the hereafter and the kingdom of Allah is only spiritual? No, the kingdom of Allah is here and there. But if we only get the kingdom of Allah in a physical way, in a dunya way, in a financial way, right here, then what it's devoid of. Because if we get a kingdom which say we have a lot of money and beautiful things and beautiful everything, we don't have the sukoon with it. If this kingdom here is devoid of the kingdom of peace and of wisdom and of trust and of faith and of ease and of flow, where things just keep happening and keep working out for you. So if we have one kingdom without the other, it's not a complete kingdom. And so when Hazrat Suleyman asks for Habli Mulkan, a kingdom, he says, of this dunya. I want a kingdom of this dunya. And I also want the kingdom of this dunya, Wahabli Mulkan, to be complete, a complete kingdom. And I loved what he talked about, how Mulkan is not just about having the things, or being surrounded by things, or being surrounded by resources. It is also being enabled. I love this word so much more and more. It's being enabled to be able to use those resources. So Mulkan is authority as well, of enablement, of being able to use the resources that we have. So when Hazrat Sulaiman asks Allah Ta'ala, the one who he has deep faith and deep trust in the fact that he knows me, light and shadow, he knows my strengths and weaknesses and everything that I can do and my limitations, I'm asking him for a kingdom that is customized for me, and to give me all the things that would help me build that kingdom, the resources, and then the enablement to be able to use that resources with khair. Because many, and subhanallah, what a beautiful depth in this word mulkan. Because beyond just the resources, how many times are we surrounded by, and we know it, we have the resources, say we have a particular money, a fund, a financial fund that we're sitting on, right? And we don't know how to put it to good use, because we've not been enabled to make use of it. And or we've been given these beautiful gifts, and every one of us uniquely has been given this beautiful gift, and we are aware of that gift, but we don't know how to put it to good use. Subhanallah. So one mulkan, when you say I want a kingdom, the mulkan is not just the resources, but the enablement of being able to use those resources for khair. Yes, Tazeen, you wanted to share something, please do.
जी, शेयर मैंने ये करना था एक्चुअली कि इट्स मेरा इसके साथ बड़ा वियर्ड सा एक्सपीरियंस हुआ था. सो व्हेन आई स्टार्टेड रीडिंग द कुरान, तो जो भी दुआ आती थी ना, आई यूज्ड टू रिक्वेस्ट अब्बू के मुझे याद करा दें, क्योंकि मुझे अरबी वो याद करवाते थे, वर्ड टू वर्ड मीनिंग बताते जाते थे, तो इट यूज्ड टू गेट इजियर फॉर मी टू लर्न इट इमीडिएटली. एक दिन मैंने इनको सुबह फोन किया, एंड दिस यूज्ड टू हैपन बिटवीन 7 and 7:15, एंड आई टोल्ड हिम दिस दुआ. मैंने कहा अबू ये वाली याद कराएं, ये वाली तो बहुत अमेजिंग है. And he gave me a very weird and a very different reaction, and he said, अरे ये तो बहुत जोरदार दुआ है, ये तो मैं तुम्हें नहीं याद करा सकता. ये अरे 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 अरे, and he was like, you know, ये तो ऐसे, ये नहीं, तुम नहीं, ये तुम अगर तुम्हें याद, मैंने कहा मैं खुद याद कर लूंगी. He was like, ठीक है तुम खुद याद कर लो. ये वाली तो हम तुम्हें नहीं दुआ याद करा सकते. In retrospect, listening to what you said, it's actually मुझे लगता है कि ये इंसान को यकीन अपने ऊपर होने की भी जरूरत होती है, सिर्फ अल्लाह ताला के ऊपर नहीं. So he and I actually questioned him later when I understood the Quran better, कि यार एक आयत कुरान की है, ये कैसे ये हो सकता है कि ये ज्यादा है या ये कम है, and you're like such a well read person, how could you say that? But these things do come in personalities जहाँ पे हमें लगता है कि we are not worth it maybe.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Absolutely true.
हालांकि आई थिंक अगर मैं देखूं तो मुझे बहुत से लोग ये कहेंगे, या मुझे ऐसा लगे कि अब्बू वाज एक्चुअली मच मोर वर्दी, और एक्चुअली शायद अल्लाह ताला ने अब्बू से वो काम वैसे ही करा लिया. Whereas just he was coming from such a place of not being worthy of it, कि मैं ये दुआ कैसे कर सकता हूँ, और अगर मैं नहीं कर सकता तो तुम कैसे कर सकती हो.
That's very true. And it's thank you for bringing our attention back to this, because वही बात है कि when we get to understand Allah through point of view of who he is,
Yeah.
and not see him from our lens, we understand that in his magnificence and in his all awesomeness, Because look at the word that's been used for him in this ayah also, Antil Wahab. And I want to talk a little bit about this word because Awab, Wahab, Qasas, when these words are used in Arabic, it is and not an absolute, but it's a continuous giver, the one who, or continuous tense. So Qasas is the butcher, the one who cuts the meat day in and day out, over and over. Awab is the one, and I love this word again as well. Awab is the one who comes back again and again and again. And in the Quran, the example of which has been given of awab, and I've touched upon this before, is that of a bee. When a bee leaves its nest in search of nectar, no matter how far it travels, it always, always, always comes back to its hive. It always comes back to its hive. It dies if it doesn't come back to its hive. And this act of returning again and again continuously is awab. And look at the word for the name of Allah that's been used in this ayah, which is Wahab, the one who, the giver of bounty, not just a one-time giver, the one who gives continuously, over and over, cyclic, over and over, Wahab, Wahab, Wahab. And so when Hazrat Suleyman asks out of his beauty of knowing who his Rabb is, you see, Tazeen, thank you again. There are two ways I have found, I'm sure there are many other, to build on our self-worthiness. One is when we begin to do it completely with our own resources and begin to tell ourselves how we somehow build those resources around ourselves to be able to feel good about ourselves, right? So we eliminate all relationships, we eliminate all other external stimuli, and we say, no, I am worthy because I have these talents. I am worthy because I do this. I am worthy because, I'm so strong. I'm worthy because I have this capability, etc. The other way of building self-worthiness is when you feel like crap and the lowest of denominators in the entire mathematical range, you say, I am that, which is the one that I used. Okay, I was like, I am that. I am in the lowest. I'm in that ditch. I am in the dungeon right now. Okay, Allah Ta'ala, teach me. Tell me how I look like through your eyes. And so the other way of building worthiness is being able to beginning to see ourselves from our Creator's eyes. And when we begin to do that, and that is where the worthiness comes, where you feel like it's your birthright to make this dua. Because when you feel the love of your Creator shining down on you and constantly, persistently enveloping you, no matter what you are doing, then you feel that I must be worthy. If Allah Ta'ala is not turning away from me at my lowest, that means I must be worth way more than what I have been led to believe. When I am shouting at him and I am saying, I don't believe in you, and he says, that's okay. You don't have to believe in me. I am going to be staying in this room with you. You don't have to believe in me. You don't have to believe I can do anything for you, but you know that you're not alone. I just need you to know that you're not alone. I just need you to know that no matter how much, because I have pushed people away from my life, my whole life, and they have left. Very few people have stayed. Allah Ta'ala have never left. I've pushed him, इनको धक्के मारे, मैंने उनसे मैंने कहा निकल जाए मेरे कमरे से, वो नहीं निकले. And so when I began to build my worth from the point of view of my Creator, because मेरे पास resources नहीं थे to tell myself that I'm good enough. ना मेरे पास वो caretakers थे, ना मेरे पास वो environment था, ना मेरे पास वो part, मेरे पास कोई resource नहीं था to tell me that I am good enough. But मेरे पास एक resource था जो इतने को stubborn और इतने ढीठ हैं, वो हिलते नहीं है अपनी जगह से यार, वो हिलते नहीं है. तो जब मैं बार बार अपने आप को उनकी नजर से देखती हूँ, तो फिर इस दुआ के अलावा मैं कुछ और मांग ही नहीं सकती, क्योंकि he has seen me. You see, when I say give me a kingdom, I know what he's seen me through, yaar. My parents don't know about those events of my life. I have lied to them. I have hidden it from them. My sister doesn't know. My partners have not known. My kids don't. Nobody knows but Allah Ta'ala. He knows the places I've been. He knows and he knows the strength that I've also used in very few instances. Maybe out of 100, I've used it 2 times, but he has stood a witness to that as well. And so when he has stood a witness to both of these things together, when both of these moments together, when he stood a witness to both of these parts of me, light and shadow part of me, when I ask, and he has not moved an inch yet from his place, what else do I ask for him? First of all, I'm not going to be specific because he knows who I am. Okay, he's standing right there, of course. Like I've given him a corner right now. But he knows who I am. He knows who I am. And he knows what I need more than I know. He knows what my resources are because he's created me. Walaikum assalam, Binish. He knows what my limitations are because God knows I've shown that to him my whole life. He knows who I am. So when I make a dua to him, it starts off with, Ya Allah, forgive me. Rabbi firli wa habli mulkan. Ya Allah, forgive me. Now, what am I asking forgiveness for? Yes, for all the times that I have not done the best for myself. But equally, I'm asking forgiveness for all the times when I forgot how magnificent he is. Equally, I'm asking forgiveness for all the times when I forgot what his love is like. Equally, I'm asking forgiveness for all the times when I turned my back towards his प्यार और मुझे कहता है कि मुझे जब भी डालो मैंने कहा मैंने नहीं आना. Equally, and so in all those times, what I'm actually asking forgiveness from him is, hey Allah Ta'ala, enable me to forgive myself for all the times that I turned my back towards your rahmah. Forgive me. Enable me to forgive myself from all the times that I've turned my back towards your rahmah. And in this, because as I release myself from my past, as I release myself from all my own shortcomings, as I release and forgive myself for all of the things that in all the ways that I hurt myself, as I forgive from within that debris, give me a kingdom. Subhanallah. Give me a kingdom like you have never given to anyone before me, never will give to anybody after me. This never given to any people, never given anything. It's not an attitude of arrogance. It's not like it does mera hi ho kisi aur ka. It says deeply customized so insanely for me. So deeply customized for me. It cannot be for anybody else. And you can only ask for a kingdom that is uniquely yours. When you know, because look at the beauty that we've been taught here. Compare yourself to no one. You look at somebody else with their resources, subhanallah. You look at somebody else with their resources, you don't envy them for those resources. They are theirs. Alhamdulillah, may Allah Ta'ala multiply you in your resources. Ameen. Because that is unique to them. And look, the wisdom just keeps on opening up. One, we do not compare ourselves to others. We don't want what others want. No, God, look at we are completely unique, and in our uniqueness, we are incomparable. जब हम लोग अपने आप से किसी को कंपेयर नहीं कर रहे वो इसलिए नहीं है कि we're not good enough, because we are incomparable, they are incomparable, we are beautifully complete, unique universes existing, co-creating simultaneously. हमें किसी के किंगडम से कुछ चाहिए हो ही नहीं सकता. हमारा अपना किंगडम इतना यूनिक है. हमें वो येलो वॉल किसी की, if we were to actually just start decorating our kingdom, like I like yellow wall with black zebra stripes and big red roses and gigantic falcons on top and a couple of flamingos thrown in just for kicks. Now this is a completely deeply customized wall that is bringing into life everything that I am. I stand for freedom, I stand for colors, I stand for vivacity. This wall, अगर मैं किसी को कहूँ कि मैं आपको exactly ये वाली wall आपके कमरे में bedroom में करके देती हूँ, free में, I no, that's not me at all. We are so unique, and this is just, I'm talking about one wall. Now imagine that our lives, visualize our whole lives are made up of 1 billion walls of such variety. And no one wall fits another person's wall. This is how deeply unique we are. And so look at the familiarity. इसके लिए आपका पक्का फ्रेंड होना चाहिए. आपका पक्का फ्रेंड नहीं, आपका कोई intimately close अंदर से कुछ होना चाहिए कि आप किसी से कह सको कि give me a customized kingdom. You have to, if you trust your interior decorator, I've never, of course, not that person. If you trust your interior so deeply that you say, okay, here's my house keys, do everything that you want, and I will come back after 6 months and I know I'll love it. See how deeply you must trust that. And that is just interior decoration that can be changed in the next 2 months. You can chuck it all out, get a new one. That's just that part. Now, when you're asking for a customized kingdom for you, that's going to last you in this dunya and next, and you're asking for a deep customization, you've got to understand, first of all, how well he knows you. And you've got to understand how beautifully and how uniquely you've been created कि वो आपके जैसा kingdom किसी और को दे ही नहीं सकते. And that he is Antul Wahab, the one who is capable of giving, is Antul Wahab, is capable of giving so much and so continuously कि ये नहीं है कि उसने आपका, अगर 8 billion souls which are alive right now were to make the same dua simultaneously, each one of them will be granted the 8 billion kingdoms to be given out. It's not a Pepsi की promotional scheme जहाँ पे हफ्ते में एक ही गाड़ी निकलेगी या कोका-कोला की जिसकी भी है. There are 8 billion kingdoms to be given out. It's that kind of scheme. That's the game. But nobody asks for this because we don't feel worthy. And the reason why we don't feel worthy is because we don't know our Allah. And when was listening to the tafsir of this particular ayah, Rabbi Firli wa habli mulkan la yanbaghi li ahadin min ba'di innaka antal wahhab, na mujhse pehle kisi ko diya, na mujhse baad mein kisi ko diya. Subhanallah, the ayahs that came before it. Because see, Hazrat Suleyman, first of all, is a king. And Hazrat Suleyman, very, very, very few times, Allah Ta'ala has used this particular term for his Payghambar. Forget insan, for this Payghambar. In the ayahs preceding this ayah, Hazrat Suleyman has been called Namul Abd. Hazrat Dawood has been given the gift of Hazrat Suleyman, Subhanallah. And Hazrat Suleyman has been called Namul Abd. And Namul Abd is what an excellent slave. It's not been called Namul Nabi. Amongst that crop, he was magnificent. No, Namul Abd, of all the people who have ever worshipped me, what an excellent nemat hai. Nemat hai. He's been called Namul Abd. And when Hazrat Suleyman makes this dua at the time, because the context of the dua is set so beautifully, and the topic of this particular thing is how we multiply our best blessings, right? And so the context of this ayah has been set so beautifully because इनके बाद जो इसके वो उनके पास वो सब कुछ था, क्या था? What are the resources that Hazrat Suleyman had? How did those resources make him feel? What did he want more, and how we multiplied it for them? It's an entire like how to multiply your blessing story. So the context of this ayah and the way that this dua has been said is and indeed we tested Solomon, placing a deformed body on his throne. Then he turned to Allah in repentance, which is such a crude definition of it, for the lack of a better term, because I'm still reading the Quran. And he prayed, Rabbi Firli wa habli mulkan la yanbaghi li ahadin min ba'di innaka antal wahhab. Aur usse pehle, so I'm going to set out that scene for you. Usse pehle ye tha. It starts off with ayah 30. Wahabna li Dawudi Sulaymana ni'mal abdu innahu awab. And we blessed David with Solomon, and what an excellent servant. Namul Abd, he was. Indeed, he constantly turned to Allah. Innahu awab, right? Is Uriza alayhi bil ashij safanatil jiyad. Remember when the well-trained swift horses were paraded before him in the evening? He then proclaimed, I am truly in love with these fine things out of remembrance for my Lord until they went out of sight. And then he ordered, bring them back to me. He began to rub down their legs and necks. And indeed, we tested Solomon, placing a deformed body on his throne. Then he turned to Allah in repentance and he prayed, my Allah, my Lord, forgive me and grant me an authority that will never be matched by anyone after me. You are indeed the giver of all bounties. So keeping this crude definition in mind, here is what the scene that is sketched out in the tafsir by Noman Ali Khan. He is the kingdom. He is the king of his vast kingdom. He has beautiful, abundant resources at his disposal. The ayah is referring to Al-Ashir at the time of when he's taking care of his horses. And Al-Ashir, the time that's been referred to, is the time between Asr and Maghrib, which is what we call rush hour, because it's the time when the day is winding down and everybody is going home. And at that time, when the day is winding down, because he's been out, he's been taking care of matters. एक तो ये कि वो king है, ऊपर से वो अल्लाह ताला के prophet है. तो उनको he had to take care of spiritual, the worldly matters, the kingdom matters, general affairs, government, and spiritual matters. So as he's winding down with taking care of his kingdom, dealing with the matters of his kingdom, he's coming home on his way home, and the time that's been specified between Asr and Maghrib. And so you can imagine how you can visualize how tired he would be. But at that time, he calls upon his horses. And I want to take a bit of moment to understand when he says, because yahan pe jo ayah ke upar jo word use hua hai the horses is safin. And safin is a word that is used for ready to go war horses. Beautifully crafted, beautifully cultivated, ready to go war horses. And safin is particularly used for a three-legged creature, not the one which has three legs, the one which is standing on three legs, has four legs. So imagine, as you see these beautiful visuals of horses, wild, like very purebred stallions, they're not just standing there. They're standing there with three legs on the ground and one just reared like this, ready to go, like just about to take off. What your runner's lunge, jise kehte hain, about to take off. Those are the kind of horses he's been gifted with, safin, ready to go, ready to lunge, ready to do things, beautiful, like elite version of horses breed. And furthermore, they are called jiyad. The fact that they're elegant and regal and beautiful coats and just purebred, beautiful, beautiful horses. And what is he doing? He's rubbing down the legs of those horses himself. Now, why is this? Why is Allah Ta'ala taken care of all of this in Surah Sad, right? Why is Allah Ta'ala taken care of like go into such minute details of what he was doing before he made this dua? The reason why it's significant, here he is, and this is before he made the dua, here he is, the king that he is, ruling over the kingdom that he's been given, with the immense responsibilities that he's given. And he, at the end of the day, is still taking care to do right by the resources he's been given. He wants to go and attend to the horses himself. He could have easily given that direction to somebody else. Go take and make sure that they're okay. No, he wants to go and check on those horses. Why? Because those horses are not ordinary horses. These horses are bred to go into battle to spread the name of Allah. His resources that have been given to him are not just for the sake of just have fun. The resources have been given to him so that he may go in and use those resources to do khair. And when he knows that his resources are not just been given to him, those resources are given to him as a loan, doesn't own them, as a loan by Antul Wahab, so that he may do more khair from the resources, then he is making sure that he's taking the time out to do right by the resources he's already been given. He hasn't yet made the dua. Why is that important for us? Because we have been given our own kingdoms. The reason why some of us may not feel ready to make this dua is because perhaps the thing that's coming, are we doing right by the resources which we have been given? So, for example, for the longest time because my pain point has been my intimate relationships, right? And I was like, मुझे क्यों नहीं वो fulfilling relationship मिलती है जो मुझे चाहिए? कहाँ है वो fulfilling relationship जो मुझे चाहिए? And I was focusing on one intimate relationship. I have been given relationships. I have parents, I have children, I have 2 children. Am I doing fully right I have beautiful friends. I have my siblings. I have their children. I have neighbors. I have colleagues. I have like people that I know as my am I doing right to the best of my ability? And God knows I'm not. That's why Rabbi freely can forgive me. To the best of my ability, am I doing right by the resources I've been given in my current kingdom? Because अगर हम लोग एक झोंपड़ी में भी रह रहे हैं ना, और हमारे पास हमारी physical health है, so those are the resources we've been given, and that's our kingdom. And so before he makes his dua, what are his actions? Which give us a clue on how to multiply our blessings. Do right by whatever resources you've been given. Whatever resources. If the resources is a gift of words, use it. If it's a gift of love, use it. If it's a gift of money, use it. If it's a gift of akal, use it. If the gift of wisdom, use it. Do right. The gift of health, use it. Not just giving charity, but showing up, physically showing up for places where you can help them. If it's a gift of authority where you have some influence, use it. Do right by the resources you've been given in your current kingdom. And goes back to the principle of energy again, which is of gratitude. But gratitude feels like we should be thankful for things that we don't have. No, gratitude means look at the things you do have and so deeply look at them and so deeply do right for them, so that when you are ready to ask for more, your new kingdom is not a new kingdom. Your kingdom that you want will have to grow from what you currently have. It's not a new geography. Your new kingdom is not, first of all, it's not a new kingdom. It needs a base to grow from. And the base we've all been given. In the smallest ways, we've been given a base. In the biggest ways, we've been given a base. And our beautiful wise men and women talk about this, right? लेकिन कभी नहीं हो सकता कि आपकी जिंदगी में कभी एक चीज भी नहीं हो शुक्र करने के लिए. ये नहीं हो सकता. ये हो ही नहीं सकता. That's not the sunnah of Allah. That's not how he works. That's not who he is. And so what was Hayrat Suleyman doing before asking for this, before making this dua? He was saying, Subhanallah, he was doing right to the best of his ability, the resources that he had. He was taking his responsibility very seriously. Very, very seriously. And the third thing was that he was using the resources that he currently had, not just to satisfy himself, which he was, because it's beautiful being a king, but to also use them to spread the name, the word of Allah, the message of Allah. He was using his current resources to do khair in the best way he knew how to do it. So he had a purpose attached to those resources. His kingdom had a purpose. And we all have been given kingdoms which have a purpose. We have given yes, there may be very, very small resources right now that we've been given right now. If we want to monetarily look at it, maybe the resource is equal to you being able to give 50 rupees. And what does 50 rupee mean in this economy? Everything. When you're asking for, because those are the resources that you have. So doing right by the resources right now and using those resources. And remember I talked about like in my view, although it's not supported anywhere else, but in my view, the law of abundance, the 1/3 law of abundance, one for yourself, one for those you love, and one for people you don't know, people who need help. So just divide your wealth, whatever resources you have, whether it's wealth or your, your abilities or whatever else, divide it in 3 parts. Whatever resources, you divide it in 3 parts. And the moment you divide it in 3 parts, you're already linking themselves to a higher purpose. Because the third part, actually both the second, all of them are linked to a higher purpose. You want to better yourself, you want to better people that you love, and you want to better people that you've never met, absolute strangers. Beautiful. So ability divided in 3 steps. So one is be aware of the kingdoms we have already been given. Take absolute responsibility to the best of your ability to do right by them. If we are looking for beautiful, fulfilling relationships in our lives, there must be one relationship in our current life that we can look at and say, okay, this is bringing me some form of fulfillment. And you just completely focus on that fulfillment. in that particular relationship, and that's it. And that's it. And you focus on it so much that it becomes the fulcrum of bringing you other fulfilling relationships. So we never go after fulfilling relationships. We do right by the at least one relationship we have. Notice the difference. We never go after fulfilling relationships. We do right by one relationship that we have in our life. Start with one, just one, and see how the relationships blossom in your life. And in the same way, we don't run after any other kind of things. We do right by the things we have now. You want to have a beautiful, bigger house. You want to talk about laws of manifestation. You want a beautiful, big house, complete independence. Do right by the small room that you're living in right now. Do right by that room. Honor it. Make it beautiful. Feel the beauty in it. Feel the safety in it. Feel your independence in it. Feel your freedom in it. And it must blossom for you to receive the bigger part, the bigger version of this kingdom. It is never, Hazrat Suleyman was not asking for a new, do not give a kingdom like you've never given. He had a kingdom. His kingdom looked different from my kingdom, but he had a kingdom. And what did his kingdom become? As a result of the dua, a bigger, better, most beautiful relationship. Absolutely. The primary relationship is with Allah, but we are not. And that's another part of it, because when we are asked to do right by Allah, we are asked to do right by Him in every aspect throughout all of His creation. And so I'm just going to mute. Who is not on mute? I think Alia, it may be you. May I please? Okay. So I've just muted it. It's okay. So when, yes, our primary relation being one relationship that must be fulfilling. Absolutely. That's Allah. But other than that as well, in our worldly life, we've been given at least one relationship, whether it's that of a friend or a stranger or a pen pal, somebody on a Facebook community. We've been given one relationship. We've been given on a WhatsApp group, one relationship that can be a source of fulfillment for you. And so you focus on that relationship in a worldly sense. That's how we ground our relationship to Allah. And the other thing is that what he was given, as a result of him doing right by the resources and linking his resources to doing khair, subhanallah, he was given, because what did he say? He said, I may have all of these resources. When he says he placed a deformed body on the throne, what does it mean? He was exhausted. He was limp when he sat down on the throne. Right before he made this dua, what is the eyes? Like he sat down, he put down his deformed body on the throne and he turned to Allah in repentance. What is repentance? Repentance, help me. I have this vast kingdom. I have all of these resources. Enable me to be able to utilize them in the best way, because I fear I may not be. Enablement is such a beautiful dua to ask for, especially when we don't know how. Remember, I mentioned this before. There was a time that मेरी ज़बान इतनी गंदी थी, इतनी गालियां, तो मतलब words कम होते थे, गालियां ज़्यादा होती थी, in 3 languages, Punjabi, English, Urdu, वो होती थी. और मुझे नहीं, because that's all I had ever been. तो मुझे नहीं समझ में आती थी. It's like, how do I? And so the only dua that I made was like, Allah Ta'ala, मुझसे नहीं हो रहा, help me, enable me. और वो हो गई enablement, and that's another story of कैसे वो हो गई enablement. So you enable, you ask Allah. So his dua is when he puts down his Tazeen, what are you doing? Is this like psycho laughing? What are you doing? Me too. Okay, so ask Allah. Yeah, man. Ask Allah, and He'll give us a beautiful, because kingdom's unique, and the way that I received enablement in my kingdom, it's a beautiful point to have this conversation, may not be the way you receive enablement in yours, because you have a different kingdom. आपके पास कुछ डिफरेंट किस्म की वही आएगी, मेरे पास कुछ डिफरेंट किस्म की आएगी, वर्दा के पास, आलिया के पास, रिदा, सबके पास डिफरेंट किस्म की आएंगे. And so he said, enable me. His line down is just like, enable me to utilize my resource, my strength. I don't have the strength. And most of us don't feel like we don't have it, right? We can't do it. We can't make this big life change. Forget big life change. I don't feel like going for a shower. I don't feel like going for groceries. I don't feel like working out. I don't feel like having 8 glasses of water a day. All of these that we feel are such easy things are no. When you've led a lifetime of trauma, these are things that you need help to be enabled. Allah Ta'ala enable me to want to take better care of myself because I'm not being able to. आपको realization है, but आपसे नहीं हो रहा है. That's what he asked for. He said, Rabbi Firli Wahabli Mulkan. Mulkan is what? Physical kingdom and the enablement, the strength, the resources to be able to utilize the resources, the internal resources to be able to utilize the external resources. And what are the internal resources? What is the enablement? What did his kingdom look like? I know what my kingdom looked like when I used to make this dua, which was like, मुझे सुकून चाहिए और मुझे ठहराव चाहिए अपनी जिंदगी में. Because I'm a storm. I've lived like a storm. I have been inside a storm. I've shouted like a storm. I've behaved like a storm. And I want to quiet down. I want to be the earth now. Enable me. It took me years, but Allah Ta'ala, that was what my kingdom needed. But your kingdom might need something very different. Your kingdom might be that you have not been able to find it in yourself to take a step out of fear of what would happen the next time, the moment you take that step. And that means you've been still for so long, you don't know how to move. Mine was opposite. And so it's so beautiful because the Allah that you're asking from knows what your kingdom is, knows what the kingdom you want is. And so he must deeply customize it for you. This insane algorithm, deeply customize it for you to be able to give it to you. And what he was given afterwards, subhanallah, he was given because the ayahs which come after it are what? And so we subjected to him the wind, blowing gently at his command to wherever he pleased. And we subjected to him every builder and diver of the jinn. Because that's what his, and by the way, okay, all cards on the table, huh? It's like, dude, ये मुझे भी चाहिए. जब मैंने पहले दुआ कर, मैंने कहा मुझे भी कोई हवा शवा का, तो काफी मैं ना balcony के ऊपर बैठ के, it's like, okay, Allah Ta'ala, are you going to give me the control of the, some just tell, पत्ता नहीं ना हिलता था. Because मैंने कहा, because I was still in the process of understanding what my kingdom looks like. It was so, the beautiful gifts that he was given from Allah were customized to Hayrat Suleyman. The control of the wind was customized to his timeline, were customized to who he is. It's customized to his desires, to his shadows and to his light. And what I've been given, and I will continue to ask for Allah Ta'ala for, it needs to be customized. So he was given the control of the winds because unka itna kingdom vast tha कि unke paas navies thi. और उनसे नहीं manage हो रहा था ये सब कुछ. He was given the control of the wind. And then not just control of the wind, to be able to maximize the resources, because Allah Ta'ala knew what he was going to do with those resources. You see, he was not this insane hoarder building like treasures upon treasures that he was going to do what with. No, he wanted to use that and he was using it. He was already demonstrating. It's not our want, you see. He was already using the existing resources he had for khair. So Allah Ta'ala multiplied his existing resources so that he could do more khair with. The question that we're asking ourselves is, what are the resources we've been given? What is the kingdom we've been given? How are we utilizing those resources? Are we, first of all, doing right by those resources? Even one of those resources. And when we are doing, how do we do right by them? Of course, being responsible for them. No, because he, शाम के वक्त जब सारे लोग अपने घर जाके आराम कर रहे होते हैं, वो exhausted है, वो अपने घोड़ों की देखभाल कर रहे हैं. A king and a messenger, like a king and a prophet of Allah, is doing this for his own horses. Why? Because he knows they're being prepped for war. And what is that war being fought for? It's to declare and to propagate the name of Allah and the message of Allah. So are we doing right by the resources? The ones that we have. And yes, it's not easy. Yes, it's not easy. Yes, we want to have our space. Yes, we want to have our me time, and all of that is valid. But when your child is sick, and need your attention, and say you have work to go to in the morning and she has school to go to, and you've been at work the whole day, And she's not feeling well. She hasn't been feeling well for the past 12 months. And so, yes, she needs you. रात के वक्त उसका मसला शुरू हो जाता है, and she needs you one night after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. How so is when we say that we are, his higher purpose was to spread the name of Allah, or to propagate the name of Allah. How are we, what is our higher purpose? And the beautiful answer that I received in the many times before, but specifically in this lecture also, was the fact that whatever role we have been given that role because that is the best role that Allah Ta'ala wanted you to fulfill, and that indeed is your purpose. And so, if being a mother is who you are, that's not the only thing you are. You are doing the zikr of Allah by being a mother. If being a gardener is who you are, then you are doing the zikr of Allah by being a gardener. When you do right by the resources you've been given, and when you show up in your responsibility of wanting to do the best that you can. Of course, we are Rabbi फिर शुरू किस तरह से कहते मुझे माफ कर आप नहीं कर सकोगे आप कितना भी मारोगे अपने बच्चों को पर अगर फिर मदर्स आप कितना भी मारोगे उनको आप उनको धक्के भी मारोगे आप बोलोगे मैं नहीं कर सकती and you hate yourself and you hate them all of those things but it's still you have you making to the best of your ability and you show up for them to do right by them, and that goes for every resource you give. And what is the purpose of it? If we are doing khair from that resource, if we are helping somebody, it's doing khair. If we're saying somebody using a word of kindness, is khair. If we're talking about Allah, is khair. If we are loving our kids, giving them a bath. I love, again, I keep saying this beautiful thing that I've been given as gifts. Because Ramzan tha, high tension moment, right? कि कर लो सब कुछ करने अभी जितना खसवाब कमाना है ट्रिपल के ऊपर बहुत ही अजीब मैथमेटिक्स चल रही है तो लाइक अभी वो वक्त है and I really wanted to show up for this Quran class and I said I'm so sorry I cannot कोई दुआ थी सॉरी रात के वक्त मैंने कहा I need to put my daughter to bed उसने कहा अच्छा आप तो ऑलरेडी अपनी दुआ का अपना ऑलरेडी जिक्र कर रही हैं and I'm like subhanallah who are you, thank you for reminding me. So that resentment that I had, I want to be in that zikr session as opposed to take care of my daughter was immediate. It's like, what are you talking about? I am doing zikr by taking care of my daughter right now. And it began little by little when you apply the same principle. Every time that we control our anger, every time that we hold back our snide remarks, we are doing the zikr of Allah. What else is zikr of Allah? Remembering why are we holding back our tongue? Why are we holding back our harsh thoughts? Why are we being kind? Kiske liye kar rahe hain? Because we know that there is a higher version of us, which is love. And the higher version of us, which is love, is Allah. So of course we do it for Allah. This is the zikr of Allah. Every time we do right by our jobs, when we don't cheat, we don't steal, we don't lie, when we don't take shortcuts, when we do right by our jobs, we're doing zikr of Allah. Why? Because there's a constant awareness of the fact that there's a person, Allah Ta'ala का प्यार आपके लिए कम नहीं होगा. आप भी छोटे अपने आप को महसूस करोगे. यही बात होता है ना, यही गिल्ट और शेम का यही फ्रीक्वेंसी है. You feel less. Allah Ta'ala does not make you feel less. He has nothing to say in it. Let's not like even go there. We feel less. Why do we feel less? And the more we have an intimate relationship with Allah, the more less we feel. Why? Because we know how that love feels like. You're welcome, Amna. Thank you. We know what that love feels like. We know what Allah Ta'ala's love feels like. And so when we are not doing things which are not from a place of love, because we're not being able to do it, because we are insan, तो हमें ही बुरा लगता है. अल्लाह ताला को उसे कोई लेना देना. So we do the best that we can. उन्होंने भी हजरत सुलेमान ने भी बैठ के इस वक्त थ्रोन में थे. उन्होंने 15 उन्होंने अपने घोड़े सिर्फ देखे. ये नहीं उसके बाद उन्होंने पूरा अल्लाह ताला की स्किन, फिर उसके बाद वहां पे भी गए, फिर वहां पे भी गए. नहीं यार, there was a limit to his resources as well. There's a limit to all of ourselves. And mostly may not be able to do right by ourselves and by the resources we were given. But when, and I'll recap this before we wrap this up, when, first of all, we've all been given our kingdoms. We want to grow those kingdoms, they have to start from this kingdom. It's not a new kingdom. So till as long as we hate the bodies that we're in, these bodies are not going to change. Till as long as we hate the homes we're living in, these homes will not change. till as long as we hate the circumstance that we're in, the circumstances are not going to change. Because we have to feel, we've got to be able to feel the love right here in this corner, for this corner to feel enough love to want to grow. Because we feel that the things in our life don't have energies, but they do. And that's why Hazrat Suleiman's kingdom grew from the root of his existing kingdom when he did, to the best of his ability, did right by the resources he was given and used those resources to do khair. His way of doing khair was different. He had different resources at his disposal. वो कर सकते थे जो उन्होंने किया. हमारा way of doing khair is by doing the zikr of Allah, by doing in the best way we know how, in the relationships we've been given, in the moments, in the circumstances we've been given right now. Amna, tell me, like Allah, like I'm walking around with jewels with my heart, is secretly holding my hand at the back. Oh, it's so beautiful, Amna. And you know, thank you for saying that. I've said Allah is so secretly holding the back. And that's exactly in Sufism, when the teachers speak of the teachers who have come before them, वो कहते हैं हमारी पुश्त पे खड़े हैं. Or in our physical bodies, it's the spine that keeps us centered. It's the spine that keeps us anchored. And without that spine, without us feeling centered and anchored, we fall apart very easily. And so, yes, the greatest gift of Allah's support that you can ever feel, ऐसा नहीं कहता कि मुझे सहारा दो, मुझे सहारा दो. वो सहारा कहाँ से आपको मिलता है? आपके बैग से आपको मिलता है. मेरी कमर टूट गई है इन जिम्मेदारियों से. कंधे टूट के, मेरी कमर टूट गई. See all of these nuggets of wisdom embedded in our everyday language. So the more we begin to feel the Sahara of Allah, the spine of us, the energetic spine of us, अगर हम लोग पीछे और गिरते हैं 1000 दफा, आप निढाल हो जाते हो, and you don't feel like you have another ounce of energy and you fall back, right? You like fall back into your chair. In that moment, feel कि अल्लाह का हाथ जो है वो आपके spine के ऊपर ऐसे करके आपको पक्का करके खड़ा हुआ है. And you feel the surge of energy coming back into your body. Subhanallah, you feel it. And you don't feel like you've spent everything. You feel like, okay, wait, I'm supported. I can rest now. Of course, I need to rest. But here it is, Allah Ta'ala ki support holding me up. And so we do right by the resources we've been given, with the health we've been given, with the bodies we've been given, with the tongue we've been given, and the eyes and the ears and the hands we've been given. And from these eyes and ears and hands, you ask Rabbi Firli Wahabli Morgan La Yambari Li Adem Mimbadi Innaka Antal Wahab, and look at Antal Wahab, the one who keeps on giving. Keeps on giving. It's a continuous. Again, remember, there's a word for it in Arabic, and of course, I've forgotten that word. क्योंकि awab, wahab, qasas, baker को भी कुछ कहते हैं. वो भी इसी word से आता है, because it's an act of continuously doing. It's not a one-time giver withholder, one-time giver withholder. So until Wahab, you keep giving, you keep giving, you keep giving. And Wahab is a beautiful word, because name of Allah, because what it also holds within itself is this constant generation which needs no input from you. हम लोग थक ये सोच के जाते हैं कि हमें अब क्या करना पड़ेगा to get this from Allah, because we've been trained in a transactional space, right? But we can only be trained in that transactional space when we don't know who our Allah is. When our Allah is Antal Wahab, Antal, continuously, forever, ever, keeps giving. He's a self-generating giver. Like, he doesn't need your input in any way to give. And Wahab also indicates the fact that you've not really done anything. So unhone, we look at the beauty of this dua. He'll say, I will do, give me a mulkan. I am doing the best I can. Forgive me, because to the best of my abilities, I am doing the best I can with the resources you've given me. Now customize those resources for my kingdom and give me those deeply customized kingdom. And you are Antal Wahab. Antal Wahab is not equal to the effort that you've put in. So because he knows that we will always fall short. Hazrat Suleyman knows, we know we'll always fall short. If you were to get into a weightage system of good versus of khair versus non-khair, we will always lose, because we are insan. पर उन्होंने अल्लाह ताला का जस्टिस नहीं मांगे। उन्होंने कहा आप हैं अब्दुल वहाब, आप तो बस, आपका तो काम है बस देते जाना, आप तो देते ही, आप तो हैं ही वो। तो you give because it's your nature, in your nature to give, because it's your sunnah to give. So give me that kingdom because it's your sunnah to give. And so when we feel, even when we don't feel like we are worthy, you say Ya Wahhab, Ya Wahhab. And I say that now because my mother is small things that we learn growing up, right? And just because I say that after Farz namaz and sajda 10 times, I say that. I don't know why, it just makes sense for me. So Ya Wahhab, Ya Wahhab, Ya Wahhab. That I don't know what kind of namaz I just did. I don't know where my mind was. I have no idea. मुझे तो बीच में कभी कभी रुकू भी अपना भूल गया था, मुझे पता ही नहीं कितनी मैंने रकात पढ़ी है नहीं पढ़ी, मुझे नहीं पता। मुझे आप माफ कर दें, पता नहीं ये मैंने अपने लिए कोई टकरे मारी हैं, आपके लिए तो नहीं मारी हैं 100%, मुझे माफ कर दें। या वहाब, you give because I showed up, you give because I tried, so reward me for my trying. Don't reward me for my actions. This is the beauty of Antal Wahab. It's the beauty of Ya Wahab. ये नहीं है कि आप हाथ पे हाथ भर कुछ करो भी ना और आप देते रहो. That's a little do something. You've got to work for it. Work in some way for it. You've got to put your resources to work. But hey, here you get rewarded for trying as well. And you get extra rewarded for trying again and again and again and again. The more you do it in half-hearted way, more continuously you do it, that's what you get rewarded for. So Rabbi Firli wa habli mulkan ya la yanbaghi li ahadin min ba'di innaka antal wahhab ya Allah ya Rahman ya Rahim. Bless us with the most beautiful of things, which our soul needs, which our heart needs, which our body needs. We just blessed with the most beautiful of things and custom picked, custom designed for us, because you are the keeper of our souls, you are the keeper of our hearts, you are the keeper of our bodies. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyum, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyum, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyum. Bless us with things that we have earned and things we have not earned, things that we deserve, things that we don't deserve. You decide, but bless us anyway, because you are Abdul Wahab. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Enable us to do right by our bodies. Enable us to do right by our senses, Ya Allah. Enable us to do right by our hearts. Enable us to do right by our gifts. Enable us to do right by our physical and emotional strength and physical and emotional abilities. Enable us to do right in our relationships, Ya Allah, in every relationship that you've given as a gift to us, so that we may be able to perhaps bring some khair to the relationships which have been given to us as a test, because both of them are true. Enable us to do right by our friends, Ya Allah. Enable us to do right in our rizq, in every form, so that it may remain pure, and untainted, so that our children may thrive, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, so that our nasle aane wali, all the generations may thrive in your Rahmah, Ya Allah. Enable us to do right by our neighbors, by our communities, Ya Allah, and enable us, Mere Malik, to do right by being a mu'min, being born a Muslim, because we don't know if we're Mu'mins, we're Muslims. Enable us to do right in being born a Muslim, because it's a gift that we all take for granted. Enable us to take that Shahada, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, every day, consciously in our awareness every morning, so that we remember who we belong to. We remember who our Malik is, and we remember what our destination is. And we remember who is the only guide chosen by you, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, which is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Allah Ta'ala enable us to do right by your zikr, by Quran that you've spoken to us through and we don't know anything about. And enable us to do right by you, Allah Ta'ala, because we don't know who you are, and that's the true loss. that we don't want to die with. That we don't want to die with not knowing who we're going back home to. Because that's a very fearful life, and we want to know who we're going back home to, and enable us to get to know you and to feel your love, and for our children to get to know you and feel your love, and for our partners and our parents and our spouses and our siblings, our family, our friends to get to know you and feel your love. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. Enable us all as an ummah to get to know you all over again, and to remember the gift we've been given, which is the gift of you, which is the gift of our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and the gift of Quran. Enable us to do right by all of us. Ameen. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa barik ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid.